Good morning, boys and girls. Hope everybody is staying very, very safe and having lots of fun at home. So good morning, Lucy. Good morning, Barack. Good morning, Ruben Graham. Good morning, Aoife. Good morning, Abby. Good morning, Ben. Good morning, Kaya. Good morning, Faye. Good morning, Harper. Good morning, Riley. Good morning, Brona. Good morning, Elena. Good morning, Chris. Good morning, Isabella. Good morning, Joshua. Good morning, Oscar. And good morning, Ruben Murphy. So today we are going to read another story, and it's again by I think it's one of our favourite authors, Julia Donaldson, and we're going to read today The Smartest Giant in Town. Now, I know we have read this in preschool before, and I absolutely love it. So, are we all ready to start the story? Okay, but first of all, we need to be sitting on our bottom with our hands on our knees. Great looking at Julianne and the storybook, and good listening ears. Have we all done that? Great. Now let's begin. Smartest Giant in Town. Sorry, hope you can see all them pictures. George was a giant, the scruffiest giant in town. He always wore the same pair of old brown sandals and the same old patch-up gown. I wish I wasn't the scruffiest giant in town, he said sadly. But one day, George noticed a new shop. It was full of smart clothes, so he bought a small shirt, a smart pair of trousers, a smart belt, a smart stripy tie, some smart socks with diamonds on the sides, and a pair of smart shiny shoes. Now I'm the smartest giant in town, he said proudly. George left his old clothes behind in the shop. He was about to go home when he heard a sound. On the pavement stood a giraffe who was sniffling sadly. "What's the matter?" said George. "It's my neck," said the giraffe. "It's so very long and so very cold. I wish I had a long, warm scarf." "Cheer up," said George, and he took off his stripy tie. "It didn't match my socks anyway," he said as he wound it round and round the giraffe's neck. It made a wonderful scarf. "Thank you," said the giraffe. As George strode towards home, he sang to himself, "My tie is a scarf for a cold giraffe, but look me up and down, I'm the smartest giant in town." George came to a river. On a boat stood a goat who was bleating loudly. "What's the matter?" said George. "It's my sail," said the goat. "It blew away in a storm. I wish I had a strong new sail for my boat." "Cheer up," said George. He took off his new white shirt. "It kept coming untucked anyway," he said, as he tied it to the mast of the goat's boat. It made a magnificent sail. "Thank you," said the giant goat. George strode on, singing to himself, "My tie is a scarf for a cold giraffe. My shirt's on a boat as a sail for a goat. But look me up and down, I'm the smartest giant in town." George came to a tiny ruined house. Beside the house stood a white mouse with lots of baby mice. They were all squeaking. "What's the matter?" said George. "It's our house," squeaked the mother mouse. "It burned down and now we have nowhere to live. I wish we had a nice new house." "Cheer up," said George, and he took off one of his shiny shoes. "It was giving me blisters anyway," he said as the mouse and her baby scrambled inside. The shoe made a perfect home for them. "Thank you," they squeaked. George had to hop along the road, but he didn't mind. As he hopped, he sang to himself, "My tie is a scarf for a cold giraffe. My shirt's on a boat as a sail for a goat. My shoe is a house for a little white mouse. But look me up and down, I am the smartest giant in town." George came to a campsite. Beside a tent stood a fox who was crying. "What's the matter?" said George. "It's my sleeping bag," said the fox. "It dropped in a mud puddle. I wish I had a warm, dry sleeping bag." "Cheer up," said George, and he took off one of his socks with the diamonds up the sides. "It was tickling my toes anyway," he said, as the fox snuggled into it. "It made a very fine sleeping bag." "Thank you," said the fox. George hopped on singing to himself. "My tie is a scarf for a cold giraffe. My shirt's on a boat as a sail for a goat. My shoe is a house for a little white mouse. One of my socks is a bed for a fox. Look me up and down. I am the smartest giant in town." George came to a big squelchy bog. Beside the bog stood a dog who was howling. "What's the matter?" said George. "It's this bog," said the dog. "I need to get across, but I keep getting stuck in the mud. I wish there was a safe, dry path." "Cheer up," said George, and he took off his smart new belt. "It was squashing my tummy anyway," he said as he rode it over the bog. It made an excellent path. "Thank you," said the dog. The wind started to blow, but George didn't mind. He hopped on singing. "My tie is a scarf for a cold giraffe. My shirt's on a boat as a sail for a goat. My shoe is a house for a little white mouse. One of my socks is a bed for a fox. My belt helped a dog who was crossing a bog, but my trousers are falling down. I'm the coldest giant in town." Suddenly George felt sad and shivery and not at all smart. He stood on one foot and thought, "I'll have to go back to the shop and buy some more clothes," he decided. He turned round and hopped all the way back to the shop. But when he got there, it was closed. "Oh no," cried George. He sank down into the doorstep and a tear ran down his nose. He felt as sad as all the animals he had met on his way home. Then, out of the corner of his eye, he saw a bag with something familiar poking out of the top. George took a closer look. It's in the bag. "My gown," he yelled. "My dear old gown and sandals." George put them on. They felt wonderfully comfortable. "I'm the cosiest giant in town," he cried, and he danced back along the road home. Outside his front door stood all the animals he had helped. They were carrying an enormous present. "Come on, George," they said. "Open it." George untied the ribbon, and inside was a beautiful gold paper crown and a card. "Look inside the card, George," said the animals. George put the crown on his head and opened the card. Inside it said, "Your tie is a scarf for a cold giraffe. Your shirt's on a boat as a sail for a goat. Your shoe is a house for a little white mouse. One of your socks is a bed for a fox. Your belt helped a dog who was crossing a bog. So here is a very fine crown to go with the sandals and gown of the kindest giant in town." The end. Well, now, boys and girls, did you like that story? I really, really enjoyed it. And you know what I liked best about the story? That George loved to share and help people. And it's always very good when we share with our friends or share with people who need some help. Isn't that right? And share our toys. And it's just very, very kind. So I have got a few questions for you to make sure you were listening. Now, George got lovely new clothes in the shop, but what was on his socks? Does anybody remember what was on his yellow socks? Well done, everybody. It was diamonds, wasn't it? There was lovely diamonds on his socks. So, George walked along and he met a family who had lost their house, and he gave them a shoe to live in, one of his shoes to live in. So what animals were the family that their house burnt and they lost their house? That's right. It was mice, wasn't it? It was loads of little mice running about, and the mummy mouse was very, very sad because her house burnt down, and George gave her one of his shoes so that they had somewhere to live. And the last question. Now, I know you were listening really, really well to the end of the story. So, when George had went back to the shop and found his old clothes, what had the animals bought for him? What was inside their present for George? That's right. It was a lovely gold crown, wasn't it? To go with his sandals and his gown. And they called George the kindest giant in town, because it's very kind to share with our friends and to help people who are in need. Isn't that right? So, boys and girls, another little story for you to watch. I hope you all enjoyed it, and I will see you all very, very soon. We're all missing you lots and lots, and our new theme now is People Who Help Us. So you'll be getting lots of fun activities to do about people who help us. And some of the people who help us is our mummies and daddies, policemen, firemen, policewoman, firewoman, and vets to help our animals, doctors, nurses, teachers. So we're going to think about all the lovely people who help us. Okay, and you'll have lots of lovely activities to do. So thank you so much, boys and girls. Thank you for listening, and stay safe and be good for mummies and daddies. Okay, thank you now. Bye.